Hey, welcome in to the inaugural episode of the Fantasy Fresh podcast. Joining me today, Dolbs and Pig, and me, of course, Josh. Today we're going to be going over week one recap. Uh, Great fucking week, if I have to be honest. And then we'll head over to a week two preview and then some betting picks that we have for Thursday night football. So let's go ahead and kick things right off. Week one Thursday night game. Uh, Bucks Cowboys. Uh, Personally, thought this game was going to be a blowout. It was a very close game, though. You got any thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, it was a lot closer than people thought. A lot of passes thrown. I mean, neither team could really run the ball here. I mean, Prescott threw the ball 58 times. Brady threw the ball 50 times. I mean, it.
Yeah, I mean, over 100 attempts in the game.
Yeah.
Personally, works out for me. Drafted Prescott and Brady in all my leagues, so I thought they were great value where they were going, and
Oh yeah.
both had great week ones. So, but you talked about the rushing game, not really there for anybody. Ezekiel Elliott, where are you on a scale of 1 to 10? If you're Ezekiel Elliott owner, are you hitting the panic button yet?
No, I mean, the Bucks have a great front seven. Great defense all around. Zeke carried the ball 11 times. I wouldn't hit the panic button yet. I would look for him to get more work next week, especially in the passing game. I mean, he didn't have any catches. Um, I mean, Pollard he got all the work in the passing game, so you still can't start him. If you have Zeke though, where you bought him, you have to start him.
Yeah, is Pollard one of the best handcuffs right now?
I think so. Yeah. I mean, if Zeke goes down, he's gonna get all the work there.
Yeah. Speaking of the passing game a little bit, CD Lamb, a guy that I had pretty high on my board. I know a lot of other people did as well. Great start to his season. 7 for
Yeah.
104 and a touchdown.
I really like CeeDee Lamb. I had him on all of my boards, but where he was going on his ADP, I couldn't take him there because, I mean, he's the number two guy. I mean, Amari Cooper, he had 17 targets. I mean, he's a guy there. 13 catches, 139 yards, and two touchdowns.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah. He
Amari
had a great
Cooper's the
week.
guy.
Amari Cooper definitely had a great week. Don't know if that's the kind of line he's going to have on a weekly basis, but
No, I don't think so.
definitely a team though I think will support two wide receivers very well though. Heavy passing attack for the Cowboys. Buccaneers, though, I think they said Ronald Jones is going to be starting week two, but Leonard
Yeah.
Fournette got the start in this one. Obviously, didn't do anything impressive
Yeah.
enough for him to land the starting job next week. So,
Neither of
uh,
those guys could do anything on the ground or in the passing game. I mean, looking at it, Chris Godwin. I mean, he had 13 targets. Looks like he's good to start. Antonio Brown, seven
what a
targets. He had
value! What a
yeah,
value
great
for
value.
Antonio Brown. But Mike Evans, I mean, are you starting Mike Evans?
I mean, depending on who you have at receiver, yeah, I think you might have to. He's going to get more work in the future, but he's going to be more inconsistent with the mouths they have to feed there in that offense.
I mean, I know we're early on here, but to me, Mike Evans, I mean, and he was a little bit last year too, but he really is a boomer bust guy. I feel like.
Yeah, definitely.
I think he's definitely got a higher floor than other boomer bust guys. But I mean, three three catches for 24 yards. That's not getting you a win.
No.
Okay, well let's go ahead and head over to Sunday. Start with the early games. Eagles Falcons and the absolute shit show that is this Atlanta Falcons franchise. Uh,
Yeah, pretty
Eagles,
pretty embarrassing.
yeah, Eagles walloped them 32-6.
I mean, Eagles look great on both sides of the ball. Jalen Hurts, he's a stud. He looked awesome.
Yeah, he did.
Miles Sanders looked good. The receiving game, I mean, Devontae Smith. I mean, at this point, he was a good value. I mean, six catches, eight targets, 71 yards, and a tutty. I mean, good
I
value
mean,
there.
he looked like Hurts' favorite receiver out there. So I mean, that could be huge value if he ends up as a wide receiver too this season. But I mean, looking at the running backs though, Miles Sanders got a good amount of carries actually,
Mhm.
15 carries, and but Kenneth
Yeah,
Gainwell 9 carries
game.
still,
Yeah, I mean,
and
Boston Scott, he didn't touch the ball. Gainwell looks like he's the number 2 back in that offense. 9 carries,
Yep.
37 yards, and a touchdown.
Yeah,
I mean, if
definitely.
he's on your waivers, I would definitely look to pick him up.
Do love the passing work though for Sanders. 4 catches for 39 yards. That's something I like
Yeah.
to see.
Oh yeah, that's nice. In a PPR league, yeah, he's valuable there. And I mean, even Rager, he had six targets, 6 catches, 49 yards, and a touchdown through the air. So that's awesome to see.
Yeah, and looking at the Atlanta side, I mean, as someone who has quite a bit of shares of Kyle Pitts, a little disappointed after week 1. I guess the only bright spot out of that is he did have 8 targets. I think he was on the field for 80% of snaps, lined up in the slot a few times. So, I mean, definitely some
Yeah.
positive takeaways there. But,
I mean, yeah, disappointing where you drafted him, but I mean, you got to be happy about the 8 targets there. I mean, it's going to be better. But the Falcons' offense will see better days than what they saw Sunday against the Eagles. But yeah, it wasn't good for them.
yeah, I agree. I think better days ahead for Kyle Pitts. I don't think there's anything else really to touch on in that game. Huge blowout. We'll move on to Steelers Bills, and kind of an upset in this one. I think a lot of people,
yeah.
I think a lot of people had the Bills in this one. Steelers
I mean,
came out on top, 23-16.
Pittsburgh, they couldn't do anything in the first half, but I was really happy with how things went in the second half. I mean, we got that blocked punt. I mean, that really saved us there, but our defense looked great the whole game. I mean, Pittsburgh's defense it's legit. It's awesome.
And just like it was last year, they were one of the better defense special teams to have in fantasy. They put up a lot of points, and they did it again this week. That's 16 points did the Steelers defense.
Yeah, and I mean, you got to be disappointed in Najee Harris where you drafted him. I mean, 16 carries, 45 yards. He averaged 2.8 carries or 2.8 yards a carry, which, I mean, and he wasn't involved in the passing game, which was kind of a shocker to me. He had 1 catch for 4 yards. I thought I would look for him to get more involved in the passing game. I mean, don't panic about Najee Harris. He's going to get the work.
I'm definitely not panicking, but it's a little disappointing going up against the Bills defense that got decimated on the ground last year.
And there wasn't another back for Pittsburgh that touched the field. So, I mean, that's promising.
100% of snaps for Najee Harris in this one.
Yeah.
Overall, though, for the Steelers offense, it wasn't a great day all around.
They really struggled in the first half, but you kind of got what you expected. I mean, Deontay Johnson, he's always gotten a lot of targets. He had 10 targets that game, only 5 catches, 36 yards. He got a little shaken up. He had a touchdown. I mean, Juju, 4 catches on 8 targets, and then Claypool, 3 catches on 5 targets. So, I mean, those guys are going to go back and forth, but I think Deontay Johnson's the number 1 there.
Yeah, where are you ranking these guys, this Pittsburgh wide receiver group, Juju, Claypool, and Deontay Johnson, if you had to rank them 1, 2, 3?
It's going to be Johnson 1. I mean, as far as upside goes, it's got to be Claypool 2, and then Juju 3. But, I mean, Juju, he's in the slot. He's going to get a lot of targets there. And, I mean, if you're in a PPR league, he's valuable. He is valuable.
Pig, what do you think if you're ranking those guys 1, 2, 3?
I think you got to go Johnson, Claypool, Juju.
Yep, I'm kind of with you there.
One thing I would like
Juju over Johnson, but
yeah, I mean Juju, he's a PPR guy. He's going to get the targets. I will say, as far as tight end goes, I like Ebron, but I see him losing his job at Freiermuth at some point this season. Freiermuth is such a big, solid, athletic tight end. He's going to get catches at some point. It's just a matter of when. And I mean, he's gonna be a big part of that offense at some point.
Yeah, he did have a good preseason. I'm just not sure this year at any point in time is going to be a time where you start a Steelers tight end, unless one of them goes down with an injury.
Yeah.
Let's go ahead and move on, though. Great game. Bengals, Vikings. This one went to overtime. Bengals snuck away with a field goal towards the end of overtime. Might have been the end, I think, actually. 27-24. How about Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase? Definitely some preseason worries there in Cincinnati, but they came out and Joe Burrow looked great. Jamar Chase looked great.
And I mean, you can't worry about too much about drops in the preseason. I mean, he's coming out of college, rookie. Really promising though. He led the offense in targets. He had 7 targets.
He had 5 catches, over 100 yards, and a nice touchdown in that one. Joe Burrow looked really good, 260 yards, I believe, and 2 touchdowns in that one.
Touchdowns, yeah. I mean, he's only going to get better. So, I mean, if you have Burrow, I mean, I don't know if I would start him next week, but he's someone you could definitely hold on to.
Yeah, and then how about Joe Mixon? 29 carries, 127 yards, and a touchdown. Talk about volume.
Yeah, he's a guy there for sure. I mean, you don't have to worry about –
Not to mention he caught all 4 of his targets for 23 yards. That's a guy that definitely surprised me a little bit. He was definitely going, 2-3 turn in a lot of drafts.
Yeah.
Second round, third round.
I would also add there, if you have Tyler Boyd, don't freak out. He's a slot PPR guy. I mean, he only had 3 catches on 4 targets, but he's going to get more work in the future. So don't freak out there.
I don't know. I think I disagree. I think Higgins and Chase are the only guys I want in that offense.
Fair enough.
Pig, what do you think on the receivers in Cincinnati?
I don't really know. Jamar Chase showed out. I was worried. Don't know if it's a one-off game for him or don't really know what's going to happen.
Man, well, we'll find out next week. On the Vikings side, though, Kirk Cousins, a lot of volume there, almost 50 attempts, 350 yards and 2 touchdowns on the day for him. Adam Thielen looking young. 10 targets, 9 catches, 92 yards, and 2 touchdowns in that one. Justin Jefferson, solid day. Would have been a lot better if he grabbed one of those touchdowns. 5 catches on 9 targets for 71 yards. Still plenty of volume for Jefferson in this one. I think he's going to be just fine. But how about KJ Osborne?
Yeah, who's that?
Yeah, exactly. How about he also had 9 targets?
76 yards. I mean, he's someone I think at this point maybe should be rostered.
I'm not sure I'm rostering him after week 1. I definitely want to see what happens next week. But Dalvin Cook, not quite the game that we're used to from him. 20 carries, just 60 yards. Yeah. And also the passing work for him helped out a lot as well. 6 catches for 43 yards in that one.
Yep, definitely valuable.
Yeah, I think I don't know. I'm not sure where I'm at with this Vikings team. I can't tell if they're just not that good or if they'll be middle of the road again like they were last year.
If I had to put money on it, I would say they'll be a middle-of-the-road offense that can put up points. I mean, fantasy points, that is. You know, it doesn't always translate into a great offense. But, I mean, they can definitely put up some fantasy points in loose games.
Oh, yeah, definitely. I think definitely receivers I like in that Vikings offense. Moving on to a blowout that was a blowout until it wasn't a blowout.
Yeah.
The 49ers and the Lions. San Francisco had this game all but wrapped up. I think they were up 38-17 going into the fourth quarter. And all of a sudden, the Detroit Lions have a chance to tie the game on their final possession. Interesting one there. Not the 49ers offense is a little weird. First of all, where was Brandon Ayuk?
Yeah, I mean, I heard he might have been injured. I also heard, I mean, he wasn't playing as well as some of the other guys in that receiving corps. You know, it's hard to tell just based off 1 week. But, I mean, you're definitely not starting him at this point.
No, definitely not until we see him on the field some more and actually getting targets. But Deebo Samuel, before Tyreek Hill played, had the best day.
I feel bad if he was on your bench.
Yeah, no kidding. 9 catches on 12 targets, 189 yards, and a deep touchdown. George Kittle, pretty solid day from him. Nothing crazy, but not going to ruin your day. 4 catches, 78 yards.
As far as a tight end goes, you can't be too upset about 5 targets there. And, I mean, I look to him to at least get in the end zone in the future. So, I mean, if you have him where you draft him, you got to start him. So.
Yeah, well, and then let's talk about the number 1 guy on most people's waiver wires this week, Elijah Mitchell.
Yeah.
Raheem Mostert goes down very early in this one, just 2 carries. And it's Elijah Mitchell, not Trey Sermon, that comes in and finishes the day with over 100 yards rushing and a touchdown.
Yeah, I mean, Sermon was a healthy scratch there. I mean, I don't think anyone saw that coming. I mean, I saw Mitchell was 8% owned in Yahoo leagues up until this point. I would say that at this time he's probably close to 100%. But what a week from him.
Yeah. On the Lions side, though,
I will also add Mostert is he's out for the year. They put him on
he's getting
IR.
surgery, so season-ending.
Season-ending surgery. But, yeah, Lions side of the ball.
Yeah, and where are the Lions receivers at?
T.J.
Hawkinson. Yeah.
I mean, you could kind of see that Hawkinson going into the year was going to be their number one target. But, I mean, if you would have told me that Swift and Williams would lead in targets over any of their receivers, I mean, that's crazy. You don't hear about that.
Yeah, by a long shot, too. I mean, I know T.J. Hawkinson had a lot of hype coming into the season. I know he was pretty high on a lot of people's boards. But Williams, I was a little worried. I think Sunday morning something came out. Swift said, it was questionable or something.
And it was a week or so heading up to the season. They said Swift might not be ready, but then you heard, he's going to get the work. And then it came out Sunday morning. Yeah, Williams was going to start and carry the load. And, I mean, he did. I mean, he had a great week. I mean, it was more 50-50. I mean, Williams had 9 carries, Swift had 11, and Swift had 8 catches, and Williams had 8. So, I mean, it was about 50-50. But you got to be happy if you drafted Williams where you did.
Oh, yeah. Where do you see this backfield next week? Would you start Williams in the flex week 2?
I don't know if I'd start him.
Going up against the Packers on what will likely be a revenge game for the Packers?
I don't think you can start him. I mean, I think that at this point they might be trying to work Swift into a little more of a lead back, but also at the same time, Swift has been known to be injury prone. So, I mean, if you have Williams, you want to hold on to him. And, I mean, if Swift goes down, Williams is going to be a great, great play.
Yeah, no doubt. Is there a receiver in this Lions offense that you would like to roster?
Honestly, no. But if there was one that I would have to roster, it'd be Tyrell Williams. But I wouldn't be happy about it at all.
Yeah, no, I think I'm.
What about you, Pig? What do you think about this Lions receiving core?
I took a last round flyer on Williams and I dropped him. So
yeah, I think that's all you need to know. Fair. Yeah, I'll stay far, far away from that receiving core.
Yeah.
Moving on, Cardinals, Titans, and how about Kyler Murray?
I mean, he played great. 21 for 32, 289 yards, and 4 touchdowns. I mean, you can't complain about that.
Nope, added one on the ground as well, so 5 total touchdowns for Kyler Murray on this one. DeAndre Hopkins, your typical DeAndre Hopkins game, really. I mean,
made an insane catch. I will say I was a little surprised. James Conner carried the ball more than Chase Edmonds did, and I mean Edmonds was obviously involved in the passing game, and Conner wasn't. But I mean, what do you think about the value there in that backfield? I mean, who are you playing?
That's really kind of what I expected in that backfield. I didn't think Chase Edmonds was going to be a workhorse type back for that offense. So I figured James Conner would eat away a lot of, first and second down carries, and Edmonds would still get some work on the ground, but he'd be more of a receiving back in that offense, just like he was last year with Kenyon Drake.
Kirk, what about Christian Kirk, though? I mean, went 5 for 5, 70 yards and 2 touchdowns. I mean, at this point, he's got to be rostered. I mean, he was on a lot of waiver wires in week 1.
Yeah, I'm really not sold on Christian Kirk. I feel like he does this every year where he's got a couple big games, and I'm just not one to pick and try and guess which weeks he's going to have his big game. So that's a pick I'm going to stay away from personally until I maybe saw more.
I mean, he's a young guy, though. I mean, he could be up and coming. He could get more involved in this offense. I will also say Rondale Moore. He had a decent showing for 4 catches on 5 targets and 68 yards. I mean, he's a slot guy that you can hold on to if you drafted him.
Yeah, I was gonna say Rondo Moore is the receiver I'm much more interested in this offense.
Yeah, could be a good PPR.
Yeah, definitely. As the season goes on, I think Moore is the guy that's going to be the clear-cut number 2 in that one. On the Titans side of the ball, I mean, just kind of a miserable day all around for that offense. Chandler Jones had 5 sacks. Tough day in the office for Ryan Tannehill, and tough day for Derrick Henry too. 17 carries, 58 yards. Not really what you were expecting from the guy that just ran for 2,000 yards last year.
And I mean, you got to give the Cardinals some credit. I mean, that defense looked great. I mean, the Titans couldn't do anything. I mean, their leading receiver was A.J. Brown, four catches, 49 yards, and a touchdown. Kind of expecting that. But Julio Jones, that was a little bit of a disappointing performance there.
Yeah. I mean, I think you got to give Julio some time to get worked into the offense a little bit. Obviously, got traded in the offseason. For me, picked up A.J. Brown in a number of leagues this year. Saved his day with a touchdown.
Yeah.
I think there's definitely – I mean, I hope there's better days ahead for A.J. Brown on this offense. This offense just wasn't clicking on Sunday, and we'll be very interested to see what they look like in Week 2 versus a Seahawks secondary that has been known to give up some yards. So,
are you worried about the Titans' defense?
Absolutely. I don't think this Titans defense is going to be able to stop anybody, and I don't think this Titans team is going to be very good this year, which means – I'm a little worried about Derrick Henry this year and negative game script for them in a lot of games.
They'll be throwing the ball a lot more.
Yeah, which should be a good thing for A.J. Brown and Julio Jones.
Definitely.
But speaking of the Seahawks, let's go ahead and move on to their matchup against the Colts this week. They took care of business, and Russ was cooking, as he does. 4 touchdowns in this one, 250 yards. Tyler Lockett had another one of his big games. 4 receptions, 100 yards, 2 touchdowns. Yeah.
Little disappointed if you drafted Metcalf where you did, but I mean you kind of got to expect it. He's gonna have great games. He was inconsistent last year too, but 4 catches, 60 yards, and a touchdown.
Yeah, I mean I don't think you're disappointed with Metcalf's week. I think you maybe would have liked a little bit more volume there, but I mean. Still decent week for him, 17 points. But, I mean, this is just what Lockett does, and it'll happen again this season. But Lockett's also going to have those games where he scores, 5 points. So that's where I like Metcalf a lot. I think his floor is a lot higher. I just don't think Metcalf has those bad weeks, at least as often as Lockett does. But we'll see. What about the tight ends for Seattle on this one? Will Dissly, kind of a week 1 legend the last couple years.
Yeah. I mean, I don't have any of these guys in fantasy except for Gerald Everett. I got him in a league, and I mean, touchdown saved his day. He had 2 catches. He's gonna hurt me a lot more weeks than he's gonna help me. I feel like so.
I think
too thrilled about it.
The tight ends in this one basically splitting snaps. Not really a tight end on the roster I'm looking to put on my fantasy roster. Unless one of them were to get hurt, which would more than likely be Dissly. Obviously, season-ending injuries the last 2 years. We'll see what happens there. Looking at the Colts in this one, though, as someone who was had quite a few shares of Michael Pittman Jr., extremely disappointing. 3 catches, 29 yards for him.
Only 4 targets too. That's got to hurt. But I mean. Pascal, who was their leading receiver besides the running backs, I mean, he only had 5 targets, and I mean, he's a waiver wire guy if you're hurting there, but I mean, he's always been hit or miss, so I wouldn't bank on him. But very surprising to see both backs. I mean, they outproduced the receivers, except for Pascal's 2 touchdowns. I mean, they both had 6 catches. On Taylor had 7 targets, and Hines had 8. But Hines, I mean, where you drafted him, if you did draft him, I mean, he's a guy you want on your bench.
Yeah, I think Hines is a great flex play and will definitely be a great play later in the year as bye weeks come along.
Especially in PPR.
Oh yeah, especially. I mean, I don't think he's really a play in standard formats.
Yeah.
But yeah, you're happy with Jonathan Taylor though. 6 catches for 60 yards, adding 56 more on the ground. I mean, he had a great day and didn't even score. So when he finds the end zone, probably next week, he should have a fantastic day in fantasy. Let's go ahead and move along. Chargers and the Washington football team. Chargers got the job done in this one. Fairly close game. A very weird play in this one where Herbert threw the ball. I guess they said it was tipped before he threw it or whatever. Incomplete in the end zone was the call on the field. Overruled a touchback.
Yeah.
Interesting
Very
one there.
strange.
Ryan Fitzpatrick in this one goes down with a hip subluxation or whatever.
Yeah, he's out 8 weeks.
Yeah, so Taylor Heineke, the hero last year that almost beat the Bucks.
Yeah, I mean, crazy thing is if you have Terry McLaurin, you can't be too upset about it. He looked better with Heineke on the field than he did with Fitzpatrick.
Absolutely. And speaking of McLaurin, what a hell of a catch he made on the sideline on this one.
Great catch.
Definitely an early candidate for catch of the year. As someone who does have McLaurin in a couple leagues, would have been nice to see him get a little more volume. 4 for 4 for 62 yards in this one. Just a very efficient receiver and a receiver that's an absolute stud, always getting open and yet not always getting the ball. Yeah. Antonio Gibson in this one looked solid and looked like a bell cow back. No J.D. McKissick at all, really, in this one.
Yeah, and I mean, not even in the passing game. I mean, Gibson got all the work through the air. I mean, it was only 3 catches on 5 targets, but I mean, you got to be happy about that. I guess McKissick had 1 target, but no catches. So I mean, if you're worried about McKissick eating into his load, don't worry about that.
Oh, yeah. And if you are someone that owns McKissick, I think he's a drop candidate. Heineke, not one known for checking down to running backs much, so not somebody that I'd be holding on to really. Basically a handcuff at this point. Logan Thomas, obviously, where he went, you're going to start him with the Fitzpatrick injury or not.
Yeah, touchdown saved his day, but I mean, 3 targets, 3 catches.
Yeah, better days ahead for him, I would assume. Moving on to the Chargers, though, Austin Eckler, talking about running backs out of the backfield, 0 catches for Eckler in this one. A little disappointing as a guy who's kind of been known as a PPR stud, racking up a lot of receptions.
Yeah, kind of surprising there, but I mean, 15 carries on the ground, 57 yards, touchdown. And it's looking like Roundtree is the number 2 guy there. Kind of shocked a lot of people there. I think a lot of people were thinking it was going to be Justin Jackson. So, I mean, Roundtree is definitely worth a look on the waiver wire if he's there.
Yeah, definitely. Obviously the number 2 guy now, Justin Jackson, not really involved at all. And Joshua Kelly, I think, inactive in this one. So
I wouldn't worry about Kelly.
No. Looking at the receivers, though, Keenan Allen, once again, absolute target machine, 13 targets, 9 catches, 100 yards. Kind of just what he seems to be every year, and that's a super reliable wide receiver.
Yep. You got to be happy if you drafted him, especially where you did. I mean, he was a third round guy. So
yeah, with wide receiver 1 value. So like that. Mike Williams, he had a great week this week. 8 receptions, 82 yards, and a nice touchdown for him as well. Any other guys in this Chargers offense that you'd look to roster? Jalen Guyton, Josh Palmer?
That's what I was about to ask. Would either of you have any interest in Guyton on the waivers? I mean, he's clearly the number 3 guy there. And, I mean, with how injury-prone Mike Williams is, I would definitely think he's worth a look.
Yeah, I think if you're in a 14-team league or more, maybe somebody that you look at to pick up on the bench, but 12 or less, not really someone that I'm interested in. Just not an offense that I think is going to support 3 fantasy viable wide receivers. Pig, would you look to roster any other receivers on this Chargers offense?
No.
Well said. Moving on. Jets, Panthers. Zach Wilson, first start in the NFL, first 2 touchdowns and first interception on this one. Jets running backs, I don't know. I mean, do you want a single one anywhere near your roster?
Nope. Don't touch him. I know people were drafting Michael Carter. At this point, he can sit on the waivers. Same with Ty Johnson. I know he was a sleeper for some people. He can sit on the waivers as well. I think there's more valuable guys, especially for where you're going to be picking them up for, which would be a flex spot. I mean, I think there's wide receivers out there in a PPR that are way more valuable than them.
Yeah, I agree. And looking at those Jets receivers, Corey Davis, nice week for him. 5 catches, 97 yards, and 2 touchdowns.
And yeah, you got to love the 7 targets there. I mean, it's clearly Zach Wilson's favorite guy. And I mean, where you drafted him, you got to be happy.
Yeah, absolutely.
I definitely think he's worth a flex look next week.
Oh yeah, definitely. Elijah Moore, a guy that was on people's radars, definitely as a sleeper, as kind of a guy who may come in and be the number 2 receiver in that on that Jets team, but 1 reception for -3 yards, not exactly getting the job done on Sunday.
Yeah, I was never too big on him. I mean, he could turn around and have a good career, but at this point, I'm leaving him on the waivers.
Yep. Personally, a guy that I might keep on the bench if you have a deeper bench, but if not, not a guy that I'd be hanging on to. He could definitely get dropped. Looking at the Panthers side of the ball, Sam Darnold looks solid.
I will say we didn't mention Berrios, and I mean, this is very hit or miss because it's week 1, but he did have 7 targets with 5 catches and 51 yards. So I mean, he was getting targeted, and in a PPR league, that's valuable. But yeah, moving on to Panther side of the ball.
Christian McCaffrey, back to doing Christian McCaffrey things.
You got what you expected. I mean, he led the receiving core and the ground game. He's that offense. I mean, he had 9 catches, 9 targets, and 89 yards through the air and on the ground. 21 carries for 98 yards. So I mean, he's back as long as he can stay healthy. He's definitely number 1 pick.
Oh, I mean, yeah. The guy had 27 points and didn't even touch the end zone. So I think you like what you're getting there, obviously, as long as he stays healthy. Speaking of the receivers, though, in Carolina, I think DJ Moore, Robbie Anderson, the guys that you're rostering right now, but Terrace Marshall Jr. Did have 6 targets in this one.
Yeah, I mean, you got to be happy about that. I mean, he's a rookie guy, and I mean, he's coming out of the slot, so you got to be happy. He's going to get targets from Darnold. Darnold is definitely a competent quarterback who can, get him the ball. And, I mean, Robbie Anderson, are you worried about him with 1 catch, 57 yards and a touchdown? I mean, that was a bomb to him. But what are you starting him?
Depends who's on my roster. I mean, definitely a guy I wouldn't mind starting at the flex. Hopefully not a guy you're starting at your 1 or 2 receiver, but not a guy I don't mind having out there. I think better weeks for him as far as volume goes. But he's always been a guy that can beat you deep. So you've always got that deep threat ability with him.
We need some Pig's picks here. What do you think, Pig? What do you think about this receiving core here in Carolina? Who do you like? Who do you not like?
I think Robbie Anderson makes me nervous. Only 3 targets. It's a little scary.
Yeah, it is scary. I mean, you got to be happy with DJ Moore, though. 6 catches on 8 targets. He's clearly the number 1 guy, and there's like number 1 receiver behind McCaffrey there in the passing game. So,
yeah. Let's move on, and we'll talk about the best team in the NFL, the Houston Texans, who took on the Jacksonville Jaguars this week. And Urban Meyer and the Jaguars obviously have a lot to figure out because that team looked fucking terrible. Trevor Lawrence, 3 touchdowns, also 3 interceptions, on pace for a nice Jameis Winston 30 for 30 season.
Yeah, and I mean, I don't know if it's more the Texans offense or the Jaguars defense. You know, it's week 1 here. We'll see more next week, but very, very concerning there if you're a Jags fan.
I'm extremely concerned. The Texans are not exactly a team that people thought coming in were going to be very good whatsoever, and I still don't think that, which just means the Jacksonville Jaguars are that much worse.
Yeah.
And, I mean, we'll find out next week when they take on the Broncos, who should be a much better team than the Houston Texans. But let's take a look at this one. As we knew coming in the entire preseason, this Houston running back room is just extremely packed and crowded. And it was a huge split. Mark Ingram, Philip Lindsay, and David Johnson all scored a touchdown in this one. I mean, can you trust a single back out of that group?
No, I mean, I think if you're going to play one, it's got to be Mark Ingram. I mean, he carried the load there, 26 carries. I mean,
a lot of carries.
Lindsay had 8, Johnson had 3 carries. So, I mean, Lindsay had the touchdown, but, I mean, he's not worth the start. I mean, I guess you could carry him and hope for an injury, but he's not someone I'd roster at this point.
Yeah, I'm not touching that backfield until someone goes down over there. As far as receivers go, Brandon Cooks looking like a throwback Cooks. 5 catches, 132 yards. Had a really nice deep ball catch in that one, that 52-yarder that he caught.
Mm-hmm.
But otherwise,
yeah,
I mean, a Pharaoh Brown, I know you kind of liked a little bit.
Yeah, tight end spot. I mean, he's not someone you're going to want to start at the tight end position, I don't believe, just because I don't think they can sustain it. But, I mean, as far as the receiving game goes in that offense, Amendola was productive. I don't know if I would look at him. But other than that, I mean, I'm not interested in any of them.
Yeah, I agree. I think we'll be very interested to see what the Texans look like in week 2, because I think it's going to be vastly different from what we saw this past Sunday.
Yeah.
Looking at the Jaguars, though, and I mean, it just looks like an absolute mess out there. I know there's rumors going around that Urban Meyer's just not into it. Might be headed back to the college game next year. I'm not even sure he's going to last the entire season out there in Jacksonville, to be honest with you.
But that's crazy. I mean, it really surprising to me. I mean, I know he loved Carlos Hyde, but he totally had way more work than James Robinson.
Yeah, and James Robinson, a guy last year, finished as a top 5 receiver or top 5 running back. What happened? I mean, they bring in ETN. He goes down for a season-ending injury in the preseason. So you think James Robinson is going to look like he did last year, and you got Carlos Hyde out touching him. It's ridiculous.
I agree. As far as the receiving game, though, goes, I mean, I like Marvin Jones. He's probably my favorite receiver there. But, I mean, DJ Chark with 12 targets, Laviska Shenault with 10. I mean, can't be too upset about that.
No, and I think I don't mind rostering 2 receivers the 2 receivers from this group, just because I think the Jacksonville Jaguars are going to be passing every single game coming from behind, likely to end up with the number 1 pick again next year. I like Chark. I don't mind Jones, and I'm intrigued by Laviska Shenault to see what he might do in year 2.
Yeah. Year 2 guy. I mean, he's definitely got a lot of talent. So
so we'll see what happens there.
I like Marvin Jones because he's a proven veteran. I mean, he's a great receiver.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, moving on here. Browns, Chiefs. Chiefs about choked this one away, but did squeak out a win.
Browns played very well.
Yeah, they did. I mean, really the only mistake Baker made was that INT at the end there.
Yeah.
Trying to force a play, but
I mean, the fumble Chubb that really hurt them. But I mean, Browns gave them everything they wanted there week 1. So
yeah, and I thought Nick Chubb looked pretty good. Aside from that, I mean, 2 touchdowns. Chiefs defense not going to be very good this year, but Kareem Hunt got his too. Also scored a touchdown. He had 33 yards on the ground and 3 catches on 3 targets. So about what you expect from Hunt.
Yeah, I figured he'd be a little more involved in the passing game than he was, but I mean, Baker was slinging it downfield.
Oh yeah. So I mean, David Njoku, how about a tight end right there who could easily be starting next week on your roster?
Yeah. I like
3
the 5
catches for
targets.
76.
5 targets is promising. That makes me a little more happy on him. The thing that scares me a little bit is the other tight ends that they do have. I mean, they got
Austin Hooper, yeah.
Hooper, yeah, and Harrison Bryant. So, I mean, those guys are going to be interchangeable. But, I mean, yeah, Njoku with the 5 targets, you got to be happy about.
Definitely not bad if you're in some kind of tight end super flex league or tight end premium league where they get 1.5 points as another guy to have in there. Jarvis Landry played solid, 5 catches, 71 yards. No Odell Beckham in this one. Reports were pretty good throughout the week that he was ready to play, and then I guess he wasn't ready to play, and I don't know when he will be ready to play. What are your thoughts on OBJ?
They ruled him out week 2 already. So, I mean, that kind of makes you think that it may be a lingering injury with his knee. So, I mean, yeah, you just don't know. I mean, if you drafted him where you did, he's definitely a guy that you can plug in when he comes back, and he's going to get some targets. But
I am in the league. It's a 12-team league, and I did see somebody drop Odell Beckham this morning. So
I would pick him up.
I already have a claimant on him. I'm not a guy to be dropping quite yet, but interesting tactic there to be dropping a guy you probably took in the 5th round-ish. Let's talk about the Chiefs, though. Patrick Mahomes, Tyreek Hill, Travis Kelce, basically guys that never leave your roster ever. So
those guys did what you thought they would do. I mean, Clyde Edwards-Helaire, though, disappointing day. I mean, 14 carries for 43 yards, 3.1 average. Didn't look great.
Are you hitting the panic button on Clyde Edwards-Helaire?
Based off what he did last year, maybe a little bit. I mean, you don't want to get rid of him. He's a guy where you picked him. You're going to hold on to him. You're going to wait and hope for the best. It didn't look good. What do you think, Pig? You're a Chiefs fan.
I'm not worried. New offensive line. They'll get it figured out, and he's going to be a stud.
Okay.
Yeah, Travis Kelce, Tyreek Hill, 11 catches, 197 yards and a touchdown for Hill, 676 and 2 touchdowns for Travis Kelce. I mean, Tyreek Hill, top 3 wide receiver in fantasy. Travis Kelce, the number 1 tight end by far, did what they thought they were. They did what you thought they were going to do. So, moving on, Dolphins, Patriots. Patriots blew this one pretty bad. I think it was Damian Harris that fumbled at the 9-yard line late in the 4th quarter there. Hopefully, Belichick does not put him in the doghouse for that fumble, but he easily could.
I don't think he will. I mean, at this point in time, if you're a Damian Harris owner, you got to be happy with the work that he received. I mean, you people have been very down on a New England backfield for a while. And, I mean, at this point, it looks like Damian Harris is a guy that you're going to want to start week in and week out based off the workload that he's receiving.
Yep. Saw quite a few people picking up Ramondre Stevenson last week and saw a lot of them dropping him this week. 1 carry and 1 catch. Not somebody that I'm looking to roster. Definitely can drop him if Damian Harris is going to be getting bell cow work. So,
as far as receiver goes.
Oh, my bad. What about James White?
I like the 6 catches on 7 targets. I mean, in a PPR league, that's valuable. 49 yards. I mean, he's a guy that can definitely be – I mean, he is rostered, so definitely hold on to him.
Yeah, he's a guy that I picked up in a few leagues just to kind of stash on the bench. Just want to see how him and Mac Jones mesh. Mac Jones, a guy that I'm super high on, wanted the Broncos to draft him. Thought he was the best quarterback available at the time. And he looked really good in this game. Very very poised.
Looked great in the preseason. Looked solid in this game. Fantasy wise, I don't know if I love him, but as far as a quarterback that can take care of the ball and just keep the defense off the field, he's someone. He doesn't turn the ball over, so happy about that.
Yeah, not a guy I love in fantasy, especially this year. I just don't think New England has a lot of weapons for him to be throwing to. Also, going up against a pretty tough Miami defense in this one. But let's talk about the mediocre receivers they do have. Nelson Aguilar led the team in receptions, in yards at least. 5 catches, 72 yards on 7 targets. And then Jacoby Myers, who was the guy that people were thinking would be the number 1 receiver in this offense.
I mean, he is. I mean, he had the 9 targets.
Which you like.
44 yards. I love the targets there. And I saw some people drop Jacoby Myers, and at this point in time, no, you can't do that. Definitely hold on to him, and he's someone you can plug in, especially once this offense gets more established. He's a guy you're going to want.
Yeah, definitely a guy that will be a flex play. Jonnu Smith and Hunter Henry, both of them getting some work in this one. 5 for 42 for Jonnu and 3 for 31 for Henry. I'm not sure you can really start either one of these guys if they're both going to be playing.
Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, you kind of got what you expected with Jonnu Smith being the number 1 guy there in front of Hunter Henry. Yep. But, I mean, both of those guys got the work. So, I mean, just outside of an injury, I mean, I don't think either of those guys you're really going to want to play. If I had to pick one, it would be Jonnu Smith.
Yeah, absolutely. Me too. Let's move on. Packers Saints, and what the hell is going on in Green Bay?
Yeah, beats me. I mean, I think too much off-season bullshit there. I wouldn't hit the panic button yet. I mean, obviously, if you drafted Rodgers, you drafted Aaron Jones, you drafted Devontae Adams. I mean, those guys are going to be starting in your roster. But, yeah, it was a terrible, terrible game for them.
Yeah, I mean, I will say I do not want to be the Detroit Lions next week playing the Packers.
Yep.
I think Packers get back on track next week, and this was just one of those games, you know.
I will say
go ahead.
Outside of the Green Bay, outside of Devontae Adams there, MVS, 7 targets, only 3 catches, but you got to love Rodgers looking his way. I mean, I would look for them to connect more. And MVS, he's a younger guy, and he's up and coming, and they had a lot of good things to say about him coming out of camp. So, I mean, I would look to roster MVS if he's on your waiver wires. I mean, if you're looking for a guy, I definitely think
absolutely.
that he could produce.
He was a guy I took a lot of flyers on late drafts. So let's talk about this. Obviously, besides Adams, because he's a clear-cut number 1 guy in that offense. But if you had to rank the remaining guys, let's say Randall Cobb, Lazard, and MVS, 1, 2, 3. Where are you at on those guys?
It would be MVS number 2, Cobb number 3. I would look for Cobb to get more work coming out of the slot. He's going to get more work in the future. He only had 1 catch and 1 target. I mean, 32 yards though. I mean, that can't be too upset about that. But I mean, I still don't think he's. I wouldn't roster him, and I wouldn't start him at this. Definitely wouldn't play him at this point.
No. Pig, what about you? MVS, Cobb, Lazard. How are you ranking those guys?
I think MVS is the clear guy over both of them. I think Cobb will get more work eventually, kind of what Colby said, and yeah.
Yep, I'm with you there.
Not in love with Lazard at this point, especially with the addition of Cobb. I know Lazard was on a lot of people's radars last year just because they had nobody, and MVS, was so inconsistent.
Yeah, I think MVS is really the only guy I'm looking to roster on that team besides Adams as far as receivers go. Aaron Jones hopefully will look a lot better next week, but 5 carries for 9 yards, abysmal in this one. Let's move on, though, to the Saints side of things. And Jameis Winston threw the ball 20 times and had 5 touchdowns.
Yeah, 5 touchdowns on 148 yards. I don't know if I've ever seen that before. Crazy there. But you got to be happy with Kamara and the work that he received. As far as the receiving game goes, Troutman, young tight end, but he led that receiving corps in targets, which I like. If you took a flyer on him, I would hold on to him.
Absolutely. And if he's on your waivers and you need a tight end, he's a guy that I might pick up. As far as receivers for this team go, I mean, most of these guys are on waivers besides the one guy that everybody was high on because he had 2 touchdowns in the preseason, but he didn't do anything here week 1.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, that's crazy to me. I mean, Juwan Johnson, he caught the 2 touchdowns on 3 catches and 3 targets. So, I mean, that's not sustainable. So, I mean, if out of any of these guys, if I'm playing any of them, it's going to be Troutman in the tight end spot. You just got to bank on the 6 targets.
Yeah, for me personally, I just don't love any of the receivers in this offense yet. I mean, if you're one of the guys that took Michael Thomas, I guess we'll kind of wait and see what happens when he gets in the offense. I'll be interested to see what happens next week for the Saints and see what the offense looks like in a game that wasn't an absolute blowout. But I'm a little worried as far as New Orleans receivers go on what that looks like on a week-to-week basis.
Yeah, and I mean, if they got to throw the ball more than what they did, I mean, Winston only threw the ball 20 times for 14 completions. So I would definitely hold on to Callaway if he's someone you drafted. Especially while Michael Thomas is out, he's going to be, their number one guy, I believe.
Yeah. Let's go ahead and move on, though, to my undefeated Denver Broncos. I haven't been able to say that for a long time.
Week 1, buddy.
Yeah, exactly. I haven't been able to say that for a long time. That's how you know it's bad. Taking on the New York Football Giants in this one. Danny Dimes didn't look too great. He did fumble. Teddy Bridgewater, though, as a guy who was really high on Drew Lock this year, Teddy Bridgewater, pleasantly surprising in week 1, had an outstanding game. 28 of 36 for 264 yards, 2 touchdowns in this one. He just looked very, very good. Jerry Jeudy, 6 catches for 72 yards, looking like he was on his way to a monster breakout year 2. And high ankle sprain was the diagnosis on that one, but that injury looked pretty bad when you saw it live.
I mean, you got to be happy though. He's only out 8 weeks, so he'll be coming back. But I mean, he just at this point, he won't be the same when he comes back. He's going to be a guy you want to look at for next year.
Yeah, but now that Jeudy is out, that was my number one guy in this offense this year. I was drafting him over Sutton. But Sutton now obviously didn't do much today or on Sunday, but I think he'll be getting back into the swing of things.
Yeah, and he's coming off that ACL. I mean, I think Sutton's going to be the number 1. Then if I had to rank him, it would be Tim Patrick and then KJ Hamler. But I mean, Hamler and Patrick, you're not starting either of them if you're rostering them. But if you have Sutton, I mean, it's promising.
Yeah, I do think Hamler and Patrick are guys to look at, and especially if you're in 12 or more team leagues. Patrick's a guy that's going to have a higher floor for you. I think he'll get more targets, but Hamler's a guy that's going to have the higher ceiling of the two. He's got the breakaway speed. He did drop a 50-yard touchdown wide open, bad drop, but his line could have looked a lot different if he had caught that. It would have been, 4 for 91 and a touchdown. Tim Patrick, though, did have the touchdown in this one. He had 4 catches for 39 yards and a touchdown. Let's take a look at these running backs, though, and I want to take a look at them, especially next week, too, because they're playing Jacksonville. They basically split time 50-50 on the field, which I don't think was what people were expecting this early in the season. Melvin Gordon gets 11 carries, 101 yards, and a 70-yard touchdown that really saved his day. Javonte Williams, the Broncos' second-round rookie running back, he goes 14 for 45. What are your thoughts on this backfield?
As far as ADP goes, they were going in the same area. I don't know if people were starting any of them. I mean, if you were, obviously, I think you were starting Melvin Gordon here week 1.
I actually have
that touchdown. But I mean,
I've actually got both of them in a couple leagues, and I started Gordon over Williams this week. So
yeah. I mean, right now, I think Gordon is startable. I foresee him getting some work, a little more work. But Javonte Williams is definitely someone you want to roster.
Here's a question for you. Next week against Jacksonville, if you're in a 2-flex league, would you play them both?
I mean, that depends on who's on your bench. Who do you have that you could start over them?
I'll throw a few names at you. Michael Pittman Jr.
Yeah, I would start him.
MVS.
No, probably not.
Darnell Mooney.
No, probably not.
You would not start Darnell Mooney.
No.
Or you would? Okay.
At this point, no, I wouldn't.
Okay. Let's talk about the Giants in this one. Not a whole lot of good things in this one. But let's start with Saquon Barkley, first round running back. And as someone who does have Saquon Barkley in one league, let me ask you first, on a scale of 1 to 10, what's your panic level on Barkley?
1 being not so worried, 10 being super worried.
1 being starting him next week, 10 being looking to drop him.
I would say a 3. I'm not too worried about it. They're working him in off a ACL injury. I mean, they take people different times to come back from. He's going to get more work next week. At this point, depending on who you have, I think he's startable. I mean, he only carried the ball 10 times, 26 yards, wasn't very productive, but I would look for him to bounce back, definitely.
Yeah, I'm a lot more worried than that. I think I'm probably at about a 6 on Barkley. They get
Where
the
you at,
Washington.
Big?
Yeah, where you at?
Probably in between you guys. The 10 carries, that's kind of promising, but, he's supposed to be back ready to go this week, is what they're saying a month ago. So it's a little concerning.
Yeah, that is the thing. Obviously an ACL tear, but he did do that week 2 last year. So, full year now for him to get back and healthy. He gets the Washington football team on Thursday Night Football. And honestly, he's going to be a sit for me on our start sit show. So,
yeah, I mean, Washington football team's front is it's scary. So I definitely understand that.
yeah, I mean, I would say it's better than Denver's. So I'd be worried. And, we'll talk about it on our betting show as well. But I'm looking at under props on Barkley for Thursday night. Let's go ahead, though, hop into Sunday Night Football, checking out the newly quarterbacked Rams and Matthew Stafford, who looked really good in his debut, came out, threw an absolute bomb to Van Jefferson, of all people, who went down like 10 yards shy of the end zone. The Bears defense decided they didn't want to touch him, and he got up and walked right into the end zone.
Yeah, I mean, I think at this point, Van Jefferson is someone to look at on the waivers. I mean, he's going to be extremely valuable if an injury were to happen to Kupp or Woods. But, I mean, if he's out on the field in a 3 wide receiver set, I mean, they're going to be, like, looking for Kupp and Woods. So, I mean, Jefferson's going to be open.
Yeah, he's a guy in deeper leagues that don't mind adding on to the bench there. He's a guy that I would definitely start, in a flex spot if Kupp or Woods were to go down. I think he could get plenty of volume in that offense. Looking at the running backs out there, though, a Darrell Henderson, clear-cut guy in that backfield, 16 carries, 70 yards, and a touchdown, and had a couple of he had 1 catch for 17 yards as well.
Yeah, I mean, right now, the volume is promising. Sony Michel carried the ball once, but, I mean, it was week 1. He's not very, very established there. But
no,
I mean,
and I do think that Michelle gets worked in as time goes on a little more. Obviously, they just acquired him like last week from New England, so something to keep an eye on for sure. Looking at the Bears, though, and when are they going to start Justin Fields?
Week 3 is my guess. After they go and get blown out next week.
Andy Dalton just doesn't look good.
No, didn't look great at all. I mean, he wasn't target. I don't know. I wasn't impressed at all. Montgomery played very well. He definitely looked like a bell cow workhorse back, even though Damian Williams was he was getting worked in. But gotta be
Montgomery, though, huge bright spot in this one. 16 carries, 108 yards, and a touchdown. Only 1 target. Did catch that for 10 yards. But definitely a guy that I like a lot. Going against a very good Rams defense, putting up numbers like that, 6.8 yards a carry. Very good day for Montgomery. With these receivers, though, it's just impossible to gauge what this team's going to look like when Justin Fields takes over. So I don't want to overreact to anything in this one yet. Obviously, I like Robinson. I like Mooney as a stash right now, but it's impossible to know what this receiver group is going to look like when Fields takes over, which at this point is inevitable.
I would agree.
Cole Kmet, though, a guy that if he's on your waivers, he shouldn't be. Definitely needs to be snatched up.
Yep, he got 7 targets there. I mean, it helps that they were losing. But, yeah, someone you definitely want to look at.
80% on the field, 80% of snaps compared to Jimmy Graham, 19% there. So that's something you like to see if you were a Cole Kmet truther in the offseason. Let's move on. Last game of the week. And what in the hell was going on out in Viva Las Vegas? Baltimore and the Raiders.
It was a great game.
I mean,
very good game.
The ending to this game, and I'll tell a little story too because it's kind of funny. But in one of my leagues, up by 3-point-something points, going up against the Raiders kicker. So very, very glad they decided to go for it and got that long touchdown to Zay Jones. Saved my week. Would have lost had they kicked the field goal, assuming that they would have made it. But anyway, let's talk about this game. Darren Waller being drafted as the number 2 tight end and looked like the number 2 tight end this week. I mean, just an absolute I think he had 19 targets.
Yep, 19 targets, 10 catches, 105 yards, and a touchdown. I mean, he's happy if you got to be happy if you drafted him where you did.
I mean, you could almost say that he's a value where he was going.
Yeah, based off week 1, yeah. I mean, I don't expect him to get 19 targets every week, but I would. I mean, he's our number 1 target option there.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know about 19, but I could easily see him getting double-digit targets on a weekly basis.
Yep, as long as he stays healthy, yeah, and you got to be happy about that. Brian Edwards didn't do anything until fourth quarter, really, there. He had 4 catches, 5 targets, 81 yards.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to know. Like, I was pretty big on Brian Edwards last year, heard a lot of good things out of camp. Didn't do anything last year. And now week 1, here we are, and we're 58 minutes into the game, and Brian Edwards hasn't caught a ball. And then all of a sudden he catches like 2 at the end of the fourth quarter, and then I think he catches 2 more in overtime.
I mean it's got to be promising. He was Carr's favorite target there towards the end of the game behind Waller. So, I mean, if he trusts Edwards there when he's slinging it downfield, that's promising. And Renfro, he had 9 targets, 6 catches, 70 yards. I definitely think he's someone worth rostering at this point.
Oh, yeah, definitely worth rostering. Zay Jones did catch that touchdown at the end, not someone I'd be looking to roster.
Nope.
And Henry Ruggs, I mean, at this point, I mean, what a bust.
Yeah. I mean, 5 targets was promising, but, I mean, I'm not looking in his direction at this point.
No, and I mean, I don't know what the Raiders were thinking with this pick in the first place. I mean, when you look at last year's deep receiving class and the amount of guys that are likely to have much better careers than him, it's a little puzzling. But looking at the Baltimore side of things, Lamar Jackson fumbled twice in this one. Not what you want to see out of Lamar, but he did look solid on the ground. 12 carries, 86 yards. 235 yards through the air and a touchdown. Tyson Williams did get the start. Obviously, Ravens running back room has just been decimated by season-ending injuries. He goes 9 for 65 and a touchdown. I think he also had 3 catches for 29 yards. Are you
speaking of that running room, though, Trenton Cannon, he got traded to the 49ers today. He only saw 2 carries there for Baltimore, but
that's interesting. Doubt he does a whole lot in San Francisco either. But Latavius Murray, though, he did get 10 carries. Is he a guy, if you picked up Tyson Williams, is he a guy you might be a little worried about? Is he a guy you might be looking to stash on the bench out there in Baltimore?
I would stash him. Definitely worth someone sitting on your bench if something were to happen to Tyson Williams. But I think Williams is a clear-cut guy.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, that's going to wrap up the Week 1 recap show. Appreciate you guys for watching. Definitely tune in on the week 2 preview show that'll be coming out tomorrow. So Friday or Saturday we'll have the our betting picks for the weekend, and hopefully we can all be winning some money come Sunday night.